What's going on, guys? Thanks for joining us. It's the 9th of March and we're here for the Monday night show. We've got me, myself and we have Mr. Happy Ryan, we have James, and tonight's guest is Chris, the author of Johnny Cooper Football Manager, Cheers your Championship Manager. Oh, I said it wrong. Please join us, Chris.
No worries.
But we're going to get straight into it tonight. We're going to go on to the first topic. The reason Chris is actually with us is FM Central's Torrevieja Supporters Club. So I will let you explain about the link, Chris.
Cool. So a couple of weeks ago now, I got involved with my local football club, which is CD Torrevieja, out here in Spain. And they're a team playing in the fourth tier of Spanish football in the Torrevieja Group 6. And quite simply, they're a club that used to sort of get 2,000 to 3,000 people coming to watch them every single week at their ground, the Vicente Garcia. And over the last few years, the figures have just dwindled massively, and we're down to sort of average gates of about 100 people this year. It's a cracking little club, and I just sort of immediately wanted to get involved and see what I could do to try and help them commercially and boost the gate. Paul, you and I were talking about it pretty much from the first moment where I was trying to get ideas about how we could sort of boost the local interest in the place. We came up with the idea of making FM Central an official peña, which is the Spanish sort of term for a supporters group. From there already.
Yeah, it was an interesting idea. Obviously, we've just thrown some random ideas across to each other, and that just kind of jumped in. It's gone well so far. We did a 12-hour stream on Friday night, which got a lot of people interested in the club. A lot of people started to follow the club, which was fantastic. A few people donated towards the club, which was obviously very much appreciated by ourselves and the club.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for the first time out, bearing in mind that fundraiser was put together in about 2 days. To then go out and raise sort of just over €400 it was in the space of sort of 2 days' notice, and then a 12-hour stream. It's an absolutely fantastic achievement. Bearing in mind the team coach to away fixtures tends to cost about €500, and there's going to be 18 away fixtures, I think, maybe 17 away fixtures over the course of a season. Doing something like that really does go a long way to the club then actually being able to pay for that coach and things like that. So every single donation that was made was massively appreciated by the club. I've had a message from the president tonight sort of saying what a great job that you guys have done there and everything. And it's been absolutely brilliant, and hopefully it's going to be the beginning of a very sort of long, successful link between us and you.
Yeah, indeed. It's definitely something we look forward to. One thing I do wonder is, James, do you have a driving licence?
No.
I was thinking we could save money on the bus if James drove a few of the players along. Ryan, I know you want to talk about future plans that we've got maybe just for this month to kind of help raise the profile of Torrevieja.
Well, yeah, there's the new community save came out today after a few issues. That's going to be going on the website. Matthew James Lawson, I think I've got his name
correct.
Right. I'm terrible.
Ryan's internet's decided to go mental again, so I do apologise for that. What he was saying is terrible with names. He's also terrible with internet.
He's gonna
still going. I'll tell you what we'll do.
After each person.
Ryan, can you hear us? Yeah, Ryan's internet's gone. Basically, there's a community save started on our Facebook group, FM Central, where people are taking turns managing Torrevieja, so they'll do one season, someone else will play the next season. Obviously, where we were based from is Football Manager, as many people will know. So it's really interesting to get the community involved. I know Chris is enjoying actually watching the amount of people who are interested in the club on our group.
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I think if you'd asked your sort of the followers in FM Central if they knew who Torrevieja were, virtually nobody would have done. There might have been the odd one or two that might have been able to hazard a guess at who they were and where they played. Now there's 20-25 people at the moment alone playing as Torrevieja, and a few of the guys in the team are going to become absolute Football Manager cult legends. I think over the next sort of 6 months.
Yeah, I think the amount of times on Friday night I screamed the words "Oh Bella,"
Yeah.
and since then, in messages to yourself, it is still going on. And tomorrow night, when I stream again for the club, I know that I'll be screaming the words "Oh Bella" again, which is something to look forward to. I am going to convince James to become a cult legend and be obsessed with Obella as well, which should be easy to do when he sees how amazing his goal scoring record is. I know the Football Manager Whiz Kids, who James co-owns with Martin, they've done a lot to help promote this as well. So we want to actually thank them live on air as well. So cheers for that, James.
Yeah, no problem. Every little bit of promotion helps and gets people to know who the club are and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think we are at the front of the FM community doing this. I don't think anyone else is to dare to step over and actually attempt this, but it's actually gone really well, and I think it's because of the easy connection Chris puts across. It's helped us get it all set up, and it's something really cool to actually do and just to learn and start to follow a club outside of our own countries. So obviously we're all based all over Europe, all of us lot, so it is good to pick a base for our following, which is Torrevieja, which no doubt Chris loves.
Well, I think it's great. I mean, having looked around and done a little bit of digging, that as far as I know, there are no other sort of Football Manager community sort of members linked to a club to the extreme that you guys are. I mean, all right, you've got Watford who are sponsored, and then the company sort of helped fund AFC Wimbledon right at the start of their sort of journey. But being done in this particular way, no, not at all. And yeah, there is an element of luck in there. I mean, I don't think it's an easy thing just to go and set up unless you've got somebody on the inside of the club. And it just so happened that I was able to sort of start working with the club myself a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any other things like this start to sprout up in the community over the next sort of month or so. Because at the moment, and I know you as a fan site, you guys are always looking to do something that's unique to set yourself apart from the other sort of fan sites and the other community groups and stuff. You're way ahead of the game on this one, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what I would say is I've actually been approached by 2 more clubs since we've started this.
Really?
I've been approached by a club in the 5th, I think it's the 5th level in Belgium.
Wow.
And a Croatian club as well, which I think in the 5th or 6th level. I know, I couldn't believe it when I was reading the emails. I was just like, what?
Brilliant. That's really good.
We have said we've took on this project with Torrevieja of building the supporters group. We don't want to start going obviously tinkering elsewhere because it's just going to take away from the club and it's not really going to be helpful in the long run. But we really appreciate the fact people even considered to come and ask us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. But again, that kind of shows that already it's working, and the and other clubs will suddenly realise that there is a massive amount of exposure they can get from doing this sort of thing. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's a quirky little story that certainly helped me push the press releases out to people over the last couple of days, and people are taking a bit of interest in it because it is that just a little bit different.
Yeah, it's like you said, you've had press and people coming to you to talk about it as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to jump onto some of the topics we've got for this evening. Chris is going to stay around for them. We're going to move on to the Premier League now, obviously a league we all know and love. I'm just going to run down the fixtures first, James, and I'll get your thoughts on the first game I read out. So we're going to say it was QPR 1, Tottenham 2, Man City 2, Leicester 0, Newcastle 0, Man United 1, QPR... Hang on. Oh, yeah, and then... Oh, that's strange, hang on. Oh, no, and then QPR 1, Arsenal 2, because the Saturday game was the QPR Tottenham. Now I'm going back to Wednesday the 4th. Tottenham 3, Swansea 2, West Ham 0, Chelsea 1, Liverpool 2, Burnley 0, Villa 2, West Brom 1, Hull 1, Sunderland 1, Southampton 1, Crystal Palace 0. They're the games that have took place since we were last on air. But we're going to go to the most recent one first, James, which was QPR 1, Tottenham 2, Harry Kane getting two more goals. I know you're doing an interesting video on Football Manager. Do you want to just tell them about that?
Yeah, I've took the 4 England players that have been touted for call-ups in recent months. That's Charlie Austin, Harry Kane, Saido Berahino and Danny Ings. I've put 2 of their main stats, the finishing and composure, the same, and I've simmed seasons and stopping at every international selection and making sure they 4 get put in the squad, because I did a test, and if I don't pick the squads, none of them get in the squad. So I've done that, and after one season, 3 of them had bang average seasons, but Harry Kane, he got his value raised by 12 million to 29 million and is wanted by Man City and scored 1 in every 2. So he's quite ahead of the rest at the moment.
Yeah, it's a fantastic record. I see Ryan's come back.
Yeah, I had to shout at my housemate. She decided to switch the plug off that the router's plugged into.
Yeah, that's always nice. We're just talking about the QPR 1, Tottenham 2. I think Harry Kane's he's stepping up, I think, at the start of the season. I think we discussed him. With so many shows, it's hard to remember everything we've discussed, but I'm sure we discussed him at the start of the season. I think James fancied him this season, but I wasn't too sure about him because he seems a bit clumsy, but he's just stepped up, Ryan, hasn't he?
He has. He's on fire recently. 2 goals against QPR. Not the best team in the league, but the goal scoring record speaks for itself.
What I would say, Chris, is can you see Harry Kane going to Real Madrid? There's been a few mentions this season, hasn't there?
Be the worst possible thing that he could do for his career, though, wouldn't it? Really. I mean, if you look at Michael Owen went over there in the mid 2000s, having just won the European Footballer of the Year, and he barely got a start over there. So
I feel so. Sorry, I was just going to say I feel sorry for Michael Owen there as well, Chris, because he got 17 goals from that year.
Yeah. No, he certainly scored the goals, but he was much further down the line in his career than Harry Kane is so far. And yeah, Kane seems to have a little bit of potential for sure, and he's doing really, really well. But to go and then make a jump from playing for Spurs, then going to Madrid, and then probably sitting on the bench for most of the games, it's just not going to do his career any good, and probably not from the England point of view either. We need him to be playing week in, week out probably in the Premier League, or if he is going to go abroad, be in the starting lineup every week.
Yeah, I think as James found out in his video, James, do you think he could end up in Man City, which obviously I'm sure all of us would say would be the wrong move, but do you think that could happen in real life?
Not at the moment. I just can't see him moving anywhere. I think he's playing for the club he wants to play for. He's playing week in, week out, and 100% he is going to be in the next England squad. So why move? There's no reason. He's had about 6 loans or something, and he's only about 21-ish. There's just no reason for him to be moving clubs anytime soon.
Yeah, he's definitely come to the front because his loans have not gone well. He hasn't made an amazing impact, and then just all of a sudden he's just took off, which it's great to see, and it's fantastic the talent that is coming through at a young age in England with Berahino and Kane, and in my opinion Charlie Austin and Danny Ings are both good enough to play for England. If you look at the players who are getting a chance at the minute, I mean, when you look at the likes of Jermaine Defoe being going to the previous World Cups, I think these lads are of a better quality than he ever has been. So I don't know what you think about that, Ryan. Am I building Austin and Ings up a bit too much?
I think most people do that. Once an English youngster starts scoring loads of goals or performing really well, they tip him as the next future England star. Jose Baxter was tipped to be in the England World Cup squad many years ago. Now where is he? Sheffield United, I think, is it now?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. But we'll move on to Wednesday's fixture, which there's one game which stands out. Me and James are Newcastle fans, and Ryan is a Man United fan. We'll get onto the FA Cup later, so we can laugh for a bit. But we just want to talk about, first off, and we shouldn't have to sit and talk about this, but it has to be spoken about, which is, James, the incident between Cisse and Evans.
Yeah, I think it's clear for everyone to see what happened, and they both got the punishments. What is the really frustrating thing that Evans is trying to deny it, say he never got it. He never done it. If he really didn't do it, he would still be denying it right now. He'd be fighting this ban. But it was clear to see what he done, and I don't know what he thinks he's doing trying to get off with it.
It was actually very, very strange when he denied it. I think I said to yourself, I think it was to yourself, I just said, I can't actually believe that he's saying he didn't do it. You can imagine him stood there looking at the picture going, oh no, that's not me. I was spitting at the floor. Cisse was just stood in the way. Chris, did you see the game or the incidents?
Yeah, I've seen it sort of played back, and obviously it doesn't look very good at all. And again, I can't really work out how Evans is trying to claim that it didn't happen when the whole world can see that it did. But my personal issue with it is with the inconsistency of bans that get chucked out by the FA for certain things. I might be wrong, so if I have got this wrong, forgive me. But I'm pretty sure that John Terry got a much
5 games.
How many did he get?
5-game ban.
5-game ban for the Anton Ferdinand sort of situation, if I'm right in thinking.
Yeah.
What sort of message are the FA trying to send out with some of their bans when they're then suggesting that a racist sort of incident is of a lesser thing than spitting? And believe me, I'm not condoning spitting on a football field. Some of the tackles that go in that actually could end somebody's career get a lesser ban than what they've been given for that. It's just the inconsistency of the of how the FA sort of look at these things just drives me absolutely up the wall.
Yeah, it's I think the ban of six games for Evans, 7 for Cisse. I think them bans are about right because you can't go spitting at people. But like you say, when you're going to get 5 games for racially abusing someone, it makes no sense. Oh, James just fell over. Yeah, it just makes no sense. But Man United won the game 1-0 with a really sloppy error from Tim Krul. Obviously, Ashley Young must have called for the ball because he just decided to pass it to him, Ryan.
Well, it was unlucky for Krul. He's made a terrible mistake, but he made some very good saves throughout the game. And Ashley Young was there.
That's all right then.
But he did make some very good saves, you have to admit, but that one mistake was the crucial error.
That's the issue, I think. That's the difference, James, isn't it, between a top keeper and an average keeper. And unfortunately, Tim Krul seems to have gone backwards. And he's gone from making them world-class saves to making the world-class saves, then doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to solely put the blame on him for that because Mehdi Abid did play the ball back to him with real pace, which gave Tim Krul a split second to make a decision and try and get his foot under it. So it's a bit harsh just to pin the blame on him, but the chances Newcastle had, that game should have been buried. If those chances that Emmanuel Riviere had fell to the right man, fell to Papi Cisse, I know one of them did, but if the other ones did, Newcastle would have won that game. The chances were gold. If you put a top striker on the chances we had, he would finish them, and Newcastle would have won that game. Newcastle deserved a draw out of that at least.
I think Riviere is a guy from the neck of woods where Chris is living now. A Spanish striker called Disco, who we had. He's now playing in Liga Adelante. Riviere reminds me of him. He comes over and he just can't score. Just can't hit a freaking... Oh, it's so bad watching him.
I mean, Monaco, who are now in the Champions League, replaced him with Berbatov. Well, pretty much. You don't let a striker go from Monaco for $6 million for no reason. It was obviously not good enough to cut it at that level. He's not good enough to cut it in a Newcastle team. He'll be going back to France within the year.
Hopefully. I'll drive him. I'll travel over to the UK and pick him up. But what we're going to do, Chris, is we're going to go on to the Stoke-Everton game, mainly just because of the dire situation that Everton are in this year. I mean, they're going back to the likes of when David Moyes was there, where they have one good season, Chris, and one bad season.
Yeah, there's a myth around Roberto Martinez being this absolutely fantastic manager. And for me, and I love seeing the ball passed around. I love technical football and all that. But at the end of the day, the guy was always in a relegation. He's had one really good season with Everton, but the team is now sort of down the wrong end of the table again, and doesn't really strike me as sort of the sort of guy that is actually going to keep the team and get a team into a top class sort of finish regularly. I
Yeah,
don't know. He just doesn't convince me. Tactically, I do actually feel he's a bit inept. But he sticks to his principles so much. Take Brendan Rodgers for example. Liverpool were going through a bad spell, and he changed the way that he sets his team up completely to bring them out the other side, and now they're doing really well again. Martinez will stick to his philosophy and his tactical approach without fail, regardless of the results, and that's just going to cause Everton trouble in the long run. They need to be flexible at the moment, and when you've got players begging for them to change their style and knock it a bit longer to Lukaku and things like that, that means the players haven't got confidence with what he's telling them now as well.
yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think it's the issue, like you said, it's changing the tactical idea, having a plan B basically, and definitely echo what you said about Brendan Rodgers. I think the drastic change in formation, it was absolutely crazy when it first came in. Everyone said, "What's he doing? What is he doing playing this formation?" And I don't know about yourself, Ryan, but I just think the formation Rodgers has decided to play with is just a fantastic idea, and it's working really well.
Well, it shows. I mean, I'm a Man United fan, but I've got to admit, Brendan Rodgers is a fantastic manager, and if you can make changes and they work, you're obviously doing a brilliant job.
It's he made a lot of signings in the summer, and I think it's starting to show. Most of them doing well. Obviously, you got Balotelli. There's still obviously a lot hanging over him. But when you look at Emre Can playing in defence in the three, you've got there's a Markovic. I can't remember how to pronounce his name. Playing wing back. It's just fantastic. I mean, he played a lot in the attacking role behind the striker for Benfica, and now he's playing as a wing back. It's just fantastic how he's adapted these players to play so well. And especially if you can make a tactic, which means you don't normally play Glenn Johnson, you know you've picked a good tactic.
Yeah. I like Rodgers' approach. I've got some defenders that are playing really badly, so I'm just going to play with less defenders.
Yeah, I'm playing midfielders in there.
Yeah, exactly. And it worked perfectly.
Yeah, and I mean, he's even more lucky now that Skirtle's hurt himself. Hopefully, he won't have to play him as well. But we're going to go on to the next one. What we're going to do is we're going to mix the Aston Villa West Brom Premier League win in with their FA Cup win. And obviously, Ryan's got some views on the FA Cup side of things.
The Aston Villa game.
Yep.
Well, you didn't watch the game, did you, Paul? So,
I didn't know, I was busy.
no, I think the only view I can give that when the Villa fans raided the pitch, I think there was at least 2 minutes to go before the end. Why? They're winning the game. Why bother raiding the pitch? Even some of the Aston Villa fans were booing them, and then they get hurtled off the pitch by the stewards and some of the players, and they're still standing on the edge of the pitch with about 5 stewards using them as a fence. As soon as the final whistle goes, they're all on the pitch. Now the FA are apparently investigating this, but is anything going to come of it? The club are going to get fined, but is it worth it? Was it worth them running on the pitch?
Well, I think the fines are next to nothing. It will be like 10,000 or something. I think when you see the footage of it, and you see the likes of the linesman running across the pitch, he was going for it. His flag was waving in the wind. I think I don't know which way it looked at, because I've seen a couple of people saying this week, if this was in the 70s, it's called the magic of the FA Cup, where now it's called obviously disgrace. Now you don't condone the likes of I can't remember who it was. One of the West Brom players got punched. Another one got his boot stolen. Delph got bit by his own fans, who obviously must just want to see how good he tasted. He had a good game, so maybe they thought he was like tasty. But James, I mean, when you see stuff like that, it's just how do you look at it? Is it the magic of the FA Cup?
Well, I think so. Once it's full time and the whistle's gone, I don't think it was that big of a problem. And it's the way football's gone now from the magic back in the 70s or 80s. It doesn't matter what you do, you seem to get punished for little things these days. So after the 90 minutes is gone, Villa getting into a semi-final. To be fair, they're an awful club. They're an awful team. It's something big for them.
An awful
So
club. Good one.
if they just waited till the full-time whistle, I honestly didn't see a problem with it. As long as it was safe, nobody was getting hurt, the West Brom players were out the way, and they were celebrating with their own players. I wouldn't have seen anything wrong with it.
I think, like you said, some people think nothing wrong. Some people think obviously there's far too much risk of the West Brom players getting hurt, etc.
One of the, I don't know who was commentating. I think it was some commentator that I actually don't like. He said it was something like it reminded him of something like how the fans behaved in the 80s. I don't know if that was a
Was that
negative
Robbie
comment.
Savage?
Probably. I don't like him, so it probably was him. It says it reminded him of the 80s and how fans behaved back then.
The thing around the magic of the FA Cup sort of goes back to when Hereford beat Arsenal, I think it was, back in the 70s.
Yeah.
What people are forgetting is that Hereford were a non-league team back then, and Arsenal were one of the biggest clubs in the country. So it was understandable that a bunch of non-league fans actually were that excited that their nothing team would just knocked Arsenal out of the FA Cup. This is slightly different. I mean, this is sort of two Premier League clubs, and
4 miles between them as well.
Exactly, and Villa and West Brom, and again, I might be wrong on this, but from the little bit of time I spent in Birmingham, it's Villa and Birmingham that absolutely hate each other, and the rivalry between West Brom and Villa is less than that, as I understand it. I could be completely wrong.
I think it's just kind of like the Newcastle-Sunderland have a big rivalry, whereas Sunderland and Middlesbrough and Newcastle-Middlesbrough kind of just like sounds like that.
Yeah, that's how by describing it. Yeah.
I think one way it looks at though is there's only one road direct from both grounds. I think that's why it kind of pulls it a bit closer to a fierce rivalry. But I guess there wasn't nobody seriously hurt. There wasn't no serious issues happened. So I mean, it's not the end of the world. I'll tell you what I did sit down and watch was the Bradford-Reading match. And unfortunately, I don't get that time in my life back. The pitch was shocking. Now I know they said that they can't afford to relay the pitch at the minute, so fair enough. But the pitch was shocking. The play was all just Route 1. It was just not a good game. I mean, did you see it, Ryan, or were you out?
No, I think I was in, but I just saw the two teams and thought, nah, not a chance. I ain't watching that.
Yeah, it wasn't a good game. I mean, Chris, did you see any of the FA Cup action over the weekend?
I had the Bradford Reading game on, but I wasn't watching it that sort of closely. But to a certain
good job.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. To a certain extent, it says a lot when Bradford are walking away from that disappointed that they haven't taken their chance. Because I think they did have a couple of half decent chances to.
I think the crowd was fantastic.
Yeah, they'll be delighted with it though. They're in the hat for the semi-final. It's they won't care that it was a scrappy, horrible, ugly game. They just want to keep trying to sort of plough their way through to the
Yeah, exactly. I mean, were you at work, James? Were you, or did you see it?
Yeah, I didn't see too much FA Cup football this weekend. I mean, when my club aren't in it, which is most of the time, I don't really take much of an interest. I just look at the scores. But apart from tonight's match, I didn't really see much FA Cup football.
But on that note, James, we'll move on to tonight's match. Ryan will no doubt keep a bit quiet now. One thing I'm going to say before anything is the referee had a good game. Man United have some issue. I saw someone posted saying this is what happens when Ferguson is not in charge. Man United used to dive when Ferguson was in charge, so they can stop that now. It's always when Ferguson was in charge. Oh well, when Ferguson was in charge, this didn't happen. I'm sick of hearing that. I mean, Ryan, seriously, I've never heard you say, which is a good thing, because I just bloody delete the conversation.
Well, at the end of the day, Alex Ferguson is gone. David Moyes has been and gone. Now it's Louis van Gaal. Players are still diving. Adnan Januzaj got a booking, deservedly so. I think, did Ashley Young get a booking for diving today?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm sure there was another player that got. If they're diving, they deserve to be booked. At the end of the day, that's the rules.
I think they don't seem to have a set plan. They kind of have a rough idea. I mean, me and James were talking as Di Maria set up Rooney. That was a good bit of play. But then he's gone let himself down as well, James, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that sounding off kind of just sums up Di Maria's time in England so far. He's a world class player, but he's just not shown anything. Kind of like Ozil at Arsenal. I think he could go that way. He's sort of a one in every 6, 7 games he plays brilliant, and then we're sort of waiting around a long time for that consistency to come. And like with Ozil, we've just not seen it, and I fear that Di Maria could go the same way, sadly.
I think talking about Ozil, Chris, I know right at the end of the match they showed Ozil mentioned one of his stats for how much he'd run in the game.
Yeah.
And I actually said to Ryan, I didn't even know he was playing. That was literally the first time I realised he was actually playing.
I think Ozil's come back a different player from that injury. He's obviously done a lot of work in the gym and he's bulked up a lot more. And he's sort of playing he's been playing in a variety of roles, I think, since he's come back from injury. I actually disagree with what James is saying. I think Ozil has done he's on a different plane to Di Maria in his time in England. He's definitely done a lot more for Arsenal than Di Maria's done for United, and he's an absolute class player. And he's having to adjust himself sort of tactically to the different ways that Wenger wants to use it. But if Wenger did just set the team up with Ozil playing in that free role, then he'd get the sort of game out of Ozil that we were used to seeing before he came to England. He's just been a victim of having to change sort of his positions on the field to what Wenger wants him to do.
It is sad. I really enjoyed watching him at Real Madrid. I'm more towards James's side. I've just not enjoyed watching him at Arsenal. It's just kind of every game I kind of leave disappointed, thinking he could have done more. But James, me and you were talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain before he went off injured. We were really impressed by him.
Yeah, I mean, his play for that goal was very good, and just as they scored that goal, I said to you, I was going to slaughter him tonight, and not for tonight, but in the last year or so, I know he's been injured here and there, but what has he done? We have not heard much about him at all. But he's not been in the headlines, he's not scored a lot of goals, he's not scored winners, made great assists. Where has he been hiding? What's he been doing? And that Walcott's been injured as well, so it's not as if he's had as much competition as he does now.
It's yeah, I completely agree with that. He's not impressed week in week out, especially as maybe 18 months ago he was kind of becoming an England regular, and everyone was getting really excited, and it's kind of just quieting down a bit. Like Ramsey recently, Ramsey's the same. He's kind of just quietened off.
And at the moment, Oxlade does not deserve to be in that England squad.
No, but I am wondering, Ryan, at this exact minute, the likes of Ramsey, Oxlade-Chamberlain, we'll go through most of Arsenal's team. I think at the minute we're getting the United squad, which a few years ago you wouldn't have said.
No, it is. It's quite scary that both teams are on average form. Man United are probably doing worse, and I'm even saying that as a Man United fan. The play was better today. It was a lot quicker. Still at times you got stages where they're making mistakes. It's getting forward. There's no penetration up top.
Oh, James just fell over.
But who knows? Top 4, I'll be happy.
Alright, James, calm down. I think you should be delighted with top 4. I don't know about yourself, Chris, but I think if they got top 4, I think they've played above what they should be.
I've not watched much of United this season, but I've probably been watching United for more years than Ryan's been born. And that is, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst United team I've ever seen in my life. There's no imagination, there's no pace. There was only 2 players on the pitch for the bit of the game that I was watching closely that I thought would ever be in a good United side, and that was the goalkeeper, who I thought again was absolutely world class. 2 of the saves he made tonight were just on a different planet, and I thought Carrick had a half decent game. The rest of them I just thought were terrible. Smalling, Jones, players that I thought years ago were going to go on to be really good sort of England sort of regulars. Terrible footballers now, completely shot of confidence, and if United get top 4, then Van Gaal he's going to have to pull a miracle out of the bag between now and the end of the season.
I actually said to Ryan tonight, I said, De Gea is starting to remind me of David Seaman in his prime. He's just pulling off, world-class saves every game. Those when David Seaman was in his prime, he just pulled off them saves week in, week out, and De Gea's now doing it. But I do think he's going to be in a Real Madrid shirt quite soon.
Yeah, unless he sees United looking like they're actually going to go somewhere, he's not going to want to stay.
So he's going to be in a Real Madrid shirt really soon. We're going to move on to the MLS before Ryan starts crying. Now the MLS started over the weekend. I'll just quickly run through the games. Sorry about that. LA Galaxy started off 2-0 victory over Chicago Fire. DC United 1, Montreal 0. Philadelphia Union 0, Colorado Rapids 0. Vancouver Whitecaps 1, Toronto FC 3. Dallas 1, San Jose 0. Houston Dynamos 1, Columbus Crew 0. Portland Timbers 0, Real Salt Lake 0. Orlando City 0, New York City 1. 1-1. Sporting Kansas City 1, New York Red Bulls 1, and Seattle Sounders 3, New England Revolution 0. Now, we're going to start by talking about the Orlando City New York City game because it was the first game on Sky Sports for this MLS season. 62,000 fans turned out to watch the game, and the atmosphere was fantastic. The play was really good. Some really good play during the game. Kaka and David Villa making their debuts in the MLS. Is this the year the MLS dominates and takes off in Europe, Chris?
I think there's every chance. Now it's on a mainstream channel and it's people have got access to it. And there's some names over there now that people really will recognise. And when Gerrard and Lampard, if Lampard does, but when Gerrard and Lampard do eventually sort of make their debuts over there as well, it's only going to increase the interest. Sky are an absolutely massive player, and if these games are being put up there with the likes of the Spanish football and the Italian football for people, then there's every chance that this is going to be the year where the MLS really does become a lot more familiar to people, and people will follow it from start to finish.
Is it on over in Spain? Any games shown live over in Spain on Spanish TV?
Actually, no, not that I was aware of. But a lot of the pubs and bars around here do show the English Sky Sports. So probably if you dig around, it is possible to find them. Yeah.
I think the first team I want to pick out to talk a bit more in depth about is Toronto. They got a 3-1 victory over fellow Canadians Vancouver, and it was a fantastic game. Vancouver should have actually gone 1-0 up really early, but the striker missed from about 3 yards out. He actually managed to score a fantastic goal, breaking away from the defence a bit further on. But Toronto, with the likes of Javenko and Altidore up top, they were just fantastic. They literally... watching the Orlando City versus New York City, all I kept thinking was it's a good job they didn't come up against Toronto for their first ever game, because Toronto would have destroyed them. They were so good. Ryan, I don't know what your thoughts on Toronto are. I mean, they've got a few good players in the squad.
Yeah, they have. I didn't watch the game. I started watching the Orlando City and New York City. I actually forgot the other games were on TV, but now that I've seen, I think I watched 2 games. Now that I've seen it, I'm going to be trying to watch every single game that's on Sky, because the football, it's not Premiership style, but it's still good to watch, and you get to see the likes of Kaka and David Villa, Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard whenever they get over there. It's interesting to watch.
I'd definitely recommend just going to the MLS website, because like I was saying to Chris before we came live, you can watch all the games. You can watch the highlights on the website. Just the only 5-minute highlights, and you get to just enjoy every single match, and it's fantastic that it's available for you to watch free of charge. And I mean, watch the Toronto highlights, and you'll see what I mean about how dominant, how good the football was. But then another team would drop right the way down to the last match, which was Seattle Sounders 3, New England Revolution. And with the likes of Obafemi Martins, James, obviously from Newcastle, but they dominated and played some beautiful football at times.
Yeah, I've heard he's having a really good time over there. It was a
He's,
surprising move to see him there, but he's playing up front with Clint Dempsey now, I believe, isn't he?
Yeah.
well, that's it. I mean, when you're playing alongside Clint Dempsey and Finn Martins, you've got some good players, Chris. I mean, there's definitely some great talent in the league now.
Definitely, I did some tactical analysis on the Seattle Portland Timbers game last season, which I think ended up 4-3 or 4-4 or something crazy. Seattle are fantastic going forward, and they've still got Dempsey, they've got Martins, and they've got a couple of cracking midfielders. But defensively, they were terrible last year. I don't know if they've added anything to their back line. But that's a great start from them. And one thing you will get from Seattle is some of the best football in the division this season. They do
Yeah,
play really, really good open attacking football. The movement of Martins and Dempsey, I think it's purely because of their experience in Europe, is just a cut above a lot of the American defences. That they will definitely score goals in that division.
yeah. I think up against New England, they were always going to dominate. And I don't think New England the team to judge their defence on. So it's definitely going to be interesting in a few weeks' time. I know LA Galaxy started off with 2-0. Robbie Keane scoring a decent volley from about maybe 17, 16 yards out. It was decent finish. They actually struggled to break Chicago down. I think they're definitely missing someone like Steven Gerrard in midfield. They just didn't seem to have that play to just give them chances. Robbie Keane was quite often, he was on the last man but didn't get the ball played through. But he's still got it. Obviously, he's the reigning most valuable player, the MVP. So hopefully this year he can have another good season. Definitely good, James, to see players like Robbie Keane doing well over there.
Yeah, I had no doubt he'd do well over there. He's a goal scorer, that's what he is, and it was a weird move. I honestly never thought he'd move there. I thought he really would stay in the Premier League most of his career, but I had no doubt that he would go and score goals. But then again, I thought Jermaine Defoe would go and tear it up, and regardless of what he did, he was quick at coming back home. So it just shows it doesn't work for everybody. Like it didn't work in England with Jose Altidore, but I believe he's got the move that he needed and the move that he wanted, and I believe he'll score goals in the MLS.
Yeah, I think Chris was saying it's definitely good for him to go back to the MLS and just settle down.
Yeah, he's got a massive point to prove, hasn't he? He's been sort of a figure of fun for quite a long time now, not just in England, in the American national team as well. So if he can go back and score a few goals, then he'll go a long way to shine in his career. So.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to quickly remind people that we run in a Region of the Week competition, which is on our Thursday night FM show. If you play Football Manager and you have a region who you think is fantastic out of this world, you want to show him off, email us at footballmanagercentral@mail.com with the capital F at the start. Send him in, explain to us why you think he should be the Region of the Week, and go into our starting 11. We are putting together a starting 11 of regions, the best ones around the FM community. Keep a lookout during this week on Facebook for FM Central's FM show topics. We put up a couple for people to choose from. Remember to email myself or Ryan if you want to be a guest on the show. If you're on our Facebook page or group, you'll see us. Just drop us a message. If not, again, footballmanagercentral@mail.com. We did not manage to get through a couple of topics tonight, but it's always nice to keep people wanting more, isn't it? So I'd like to thank Chris for coming on.
No worries, thanks for having me.
No problem. James and Ryan, as always, cheers lads, and we will see everyone on Thursday night for the show.